Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Nimble Talks. I'm Fabio, and today I'll be speaking with Heath Waugh. How's it going, man?
Good, thank you, Fabio. Thanks for having me on.
My
Excited to
pleasure, my
talk to you.
pleasure. I'm really excited about this talk because it's the first person that is really deep into photography that I'm having a chat with. So I'm really excited about this chat. Eve is an AI creative photographer. He's also the founder of Matter Studio. It's a studio that tries to blend photography with the exciting AI stuff that we've been seeing lately. So we're going to talk about AI stuff, but mostly through a photography angle, which is something that I'm really interested in, and also interested in hearing more about what Eth has to tell us. What I usually like to do, just to kick off the conversation, Eth, is to ask about the actual tools the creatives are using that I've been talking with. So, can you just give us an idea in terms of AI setup? What kind of tools do you use for work and also hobby?
Sure. I have a fairly diverse range of tools that I use, and it really depends on the brief what I think is going to work best. But I'll flick between, Mid-Journey, obviously, Flux with training with Laura's. I'll often use Flux through Krea. I use Krea quite a lot. I use Krea for editing. I use Mid-Journey for editing. Um, Magnific is a good tool that I often use. Comfy UI. Uh, that would make up the bulk of the
Yeah,
work that I do.
awesome.
And yeah, there's other tools that I incorporate in bits and pieces, but that's where I get the bulk of my image work done.
Yeah, amazing. That's great. Um, so, the first question that I have for you is, how does it feel to be part of the silent minority within the photography world? So
Yeah,
you've been pushing a lot for the AI adoption to happen, and I think you really make it clear, especially on LinkedIn, because you're really pushing in educating people, especially in that space, towards that. But um, but it's a daily challenge, right? It's a struggle.
it is, and that certainly the uptake is slower than I expected it to be. When we first started dabbling in AI, we started with Midjourney, which most people do. Uh, it
Yeah,
was immediately obvious to me potential, the potential for this to be absolutely paradigm shifting in photography. And I expected that people would be right behind us and on board with that and quick to adopt as well. And I imagined we were in a foot race to launch first,
yeah,
and we just worked tirelessly around the clock building this portfolio of work, imagining that everyone else was doing the same. And then we came to launch day, which was a couple of years ago, and got the website out public and did a soft launch and showed it to the world. And it turns out that there was no race at all, and we were out there on our own.
yeah,
I did after that fact. I found Michael Rying in Denmark, who's doing similar work with scenes, and him and his partner have a photographic background. They've worked in studio for the same kind of amount of time as we have, 20 odd years. And they saw the potential, obviously, to do the hybrid kind of work style that we do as well.
yeah,
Um, but but really, that was it at the time, and I expected more. But there is a resistance from traditional creators, uh, people who are trained in traditional tools, and they're kind of clinging to that, but they don't want that the hard work that they've done to be replaced. But I think that mindset needs to shift over time as well. That AI is not going to replace creatives or replace traditional methods of creation that it
Yeah.
really it's an accelerator, or it's a work partner. It's there to assist you or aid you rather than replace you. But I think there's still that resistance. There's still that resistance from creative directors, design directors, photographers, film directors. So far, I don't think we've seen the tools quite in the hands of the right people. And
Yep.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the time that more of those people who are traditionally crafting work start using the tools. And I think at
Yeah.
that stage, we'll see the mindset shift around the quality of AI and what's possible. And once we start seeing people craft, people who are used to crafting storytelling. Once we
Hmm.
see those people using the tools, I think you'll see the needle shift in what people believe AI is capable of.
Yeah, it almost feels like a paradox.
Uh-huh.
Photographers, by far, are the ones that have the most knowledge in
Uh-huh.
terms of how to actually create engaging visuals, whether it's image or video. But I would say I would start off with image, pure photography. But at the same time, they're just trying to avoid it as much as possible. Do you think that it's this, the whole skepticism is mainly due to lack of knowledge? Or is it, I know how it works, I've explored it, but I failed. So this would be
Mm,
more related to lack of knowledge. But after a couple of attempts, I didn't see the usefulness, and this is just a threat. And
yeah.
what should
I
we do?
think
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to unpack in it, which we probably wouldn't have time to do. But I think there's a natural resistance anyway. I think photography is quite a traditional industry, and
Yeah.
it's also there's a lot of gatekeeping. There's not a lot of open sharing of information like there is with AI that we've seen. The amount of information that I exchange with people on LinkedIn and the stuff that I learn from people just blows my mind, having spent 20 years in photography uh, in our own studio, not communicating with any other photographer in the outside world about workflows. So I
That's
enjoy
impressive.
that. I enjoy that immensely.
No.
But the photography industry is it's not like that at all. I think the photography industry's been, it's been changing the whole time that I've been involved. It's under threat to an extent. There's all of the changes are impacting what, certainly the ones that of us that have been in it a long time, what we believe the industry kind of looks like, or how it was when we started, for sure. And that's kind of access to cheap digital equipment. That's clients setting up their own in-house studios. That's the contentization of
Yeah.
imagery.
Yeah.
User generated, brand generated content. It's been a watering down of the kind of slick professional kind of work that we've been creating for a long time. There's less value put on that kind of style of work. So I
Hmm.
think a lot of photographers who have been in the game for a long time have seen the pool of available work shrinking year on year on year. Budgets are going elsewhere these days. Budgets are going towards influencers and content.
Hmm.
So I think photographers are on guard. So AI is seen as another threat to that, and it's an easily identified kind of boogeyman. Uh,
Hmm.
whereas the other things are a little bit harder to talk about. So it's quite easy to point the finger at something that you don't want to be around. But the fact is, it's not going away. It's not
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the genie's out of the lamp, and it's not going back in. And you can stick your head in the sand and ignore it for as long as you want, or you can learn. You know. And we were
Yeah.
determined early on to learn, not because I was worried that we'd get left behind, more because I was excited about the potential. I could immediately. We had about 2 weeks where we were just uh, caught up in the creative potential of things.
Yeah.
The brakes are off creatively, and you can make anything your brain can imagine.
Yeah.
So the first couple of weeks I was making Street Fighter 2 characters 30 years on as regular people having existential crises as road workers and chefs, and it was
Amazing.
hilarious. And we could just, you could, anything you could think of, you could make. But about 2 weeks into that, I kind of went, this is great fun, but how does it relate to what we do? It's not, there's
It's
no
fun as a
taking,
hobby, not useful
yeah,
for our
that's it.
work. Yeah.
I don't want to make calendar art. I don't want to make t-shirts. I want to relate it back to my work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's essentially what landed us at the point of how do we scale this back to photorealism, and
Yeah.
how do we build a workflow that works for what we do in studio? We've got
Hmm.
20 years of accumulated studio craft. Not going to throw that away just because there's a fancy new toy. How do we incorporate those two things together?
Yeah.
And out of that, Matter was born.
Yeah. Before we dive into Matter, let's just quickly go back to the threat um, thing that photographers sometimes feel. Most, I would say, photographers feel. What is the threat exactly? Are they
Uh, being,
do they fear the risk of AI doing everything? Because again, they're the most privileged.
I know,
Yeah. Okay.
it's
Okay.
it's fear of replacement. It's fear of being made redundant, essentially.
But don't you think that in the case of photography, the more automated stuff it gets, the worse it becomes. So at some point, the whole human element, the human factor, the human control, the human touch
Uh-huh.
will be actually valued and praised comparing to fully automated creative stuff.
Absolutely. But that's a nuanced opinion that you've got. You've come to that point by being involved in this and understanding the technology's limitations, and you now understand that really it needs an excellent person driving the technology. But if you're someone from the outside just hearing about AI and what it's capable of, without looking into it further, or like you said earlier, giving it a quick try and failing and
Yeah.
realizing that you're more capable with the traditional tools, uh, then your only understanding of it is that it's a threat to your livelihood. So
Hmm.
uh, I think it takes time to understand, time being on the tools to understand what they are actually capable of and where the limitations are, and how to best incorporate uh, your traditional skill set and emerging technology, essentially.
Yeah. Do you think it's clear for photographers that it's actually doable, possible, and really useful to do hybrid production, for example? Because I think this whole discussion, and that's why I was asking about the threats,
Mm-hmm.
what the actual threat is, because I think the whole discussion is always around the production itself, the end result,
Uh-huh.
100% AI generated, which is
Uh-huh.
great, as you know, and as I know, it brings amazing results. But if people are so fearful of losing control of their own touch in
Uh-huh.
their of their imprints in their creations, just by giving that away to AI, regardless of doing the prompts themselves or not, uh, I mean, you could still take pictures, edit them, add new elements with AI, so
Sure.
you can still incorporate that. So it might be clear for them, but how clear is it that this is actually possible? Why are they so focused, apparently, from an outside perspective, on the end result only?
I don't know. I imagine it comes with lack of lack of understanding, lack of diving into things. I often talk to design directors, creative directors who say, I've tried Midjourney, but it's rubbish. I can't get it to look like what else I've seen online. And
Yeah.
that's because they have a very basic understanding of the tool. You know, Midjourney's default output, without very much effort, is quite good. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's perfectly acceptable. Um, but it takes a lot more to craft something, to start telling a story, to make something that emotes, to make something that's more engaging.
Mm,
And you can't just do that with a few quick prompts. There's a lot more
yeah,
involved to
that's a
it.
fact.
And
That's a
I
fact.
often think that people aren't getting below that surface area because it takes time, it takes a lot of effort,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, you and I have been deeply involved with these tools for years. I spend 8 to 10 hours a day working solely on these tools now. So
Yeah.
uh, you learn, right? You learn how to
Yeah,
push
you
them
learn. You learn. You
to
learn.
their limits. But I think the majority of people who are traditionally trained aren't getting beyond that surface level. Uh, so, I mean, hopefully in time, the hybrid kind of workflow picks up momentum and more photographers. I mean, I do see more and more on LinkedIn, certainly,
Yeah.
that it's starting to
Hmm.
work this way. And I think it certainly leans towards being favorable to studio photographers as well. People who have got a lot of technical understanding of lighting
Hmm.
and how to incorporate a thing into an AI scene. Because it's not as easy as just mashing the two together. There needs to be cohesion,
Yeah, yeah.
and to get that to work, there's a lot of studio craft involved and troubleshooting and understanding of composition, understanding of light, understanding of textures and shadows and
Yeah.
perspectives and angles and all sorts of things. So hopefully people spend more and more time
Yeah.
integrate because for me, I want widespread adoption. You know,
Yeah.
I I I see the problems that this solves. I saw it fairly after the 2 weeks of making Street Fighter. I started thinking, you know, if we can do this, if we can put products into AI scenes, it's not just cool and fun and you know, it's not just creative, but it solves a huge amount of problems for clients. You
Definitely.
know,
Definitely.
it's
Definitely.
the potential to put your product into any scene in any location. You could do 6 different locations in a day, all around the world. Absolutely no production costs involved, no permits, no location scouting, no talent fees, no. It's mind blowing what can be done, and that's what excites me the most is figuring out the potential and then working, then problem solving and troubleshooting and figuring out how to make those things work.
Yeah.
Almost as much as the imagery, the output, I enjoy solving the problems. Um,
Yeah.
so I think over time more and more photographers will get on board. But I also think there's a lot of slop out there as well. And I think a huge amount of the early imagery that we saw was crafted by, or crafted is the wrong word, was created by people who were technically savvy but didn't have a background in creation.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, the default output of Midjourney is relatively good. So we saw a lot of stuff that was just average. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably still 90% of the work, 85% of the work. Um, but so people's initial feelings about AI and AI output is really affected by the volume of average work out there.
That's true.
But I'm
Hmm.
seeing more and more and more. You know, that's why I gravitated towards your work, obviously, and that's we connected over LinkedIn because I appreciate craft, I appreciate storytelling, and you can spot someone who's got an eye for that immediately amongst the sea of
Yeah.
average.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping that over time, work like yours spreads around the world more, and people see the potential for genuine storytelling and craft. And once they start to see that and understand that they might be able to create that way too, in a
Yeah.
meaningful way, uh, then that shifts the needle. Once those types of creators see the potential.
Yeah. Thanks so much, man, by the way.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay, let's talk about matter. First of all, let me say this. The image you have on the header of the website on the homepage
Uh-huh.
is beautiful.
Thank you.
I recommend everyone who's listening to this right now just to go to their website and check that couch
Thank
image, because
Read
I
the spot.
especially love the background. It's so eerie.
Thank,
I love
thank
those types of visuals.
thank you. That was, I mean, those images were created so long ago too that the website's not updated as much as it should be. But um, we that would have been that maybe mid Journey 5, So it's come a long
Oh,
way
wow.
at time.
Yeah.
Maybe 5.1. Um, so yeah, matter, right? So what we like I said earlier on, we've got a background in studio photography, and we've shot a lot of fashion in that time. Probably 75% of our work's been fashion.
Yeah.
But as of yet, I don't really see many useful applications for AI in fashion. That's changing pretty quickly. Uh, but where I saw the sweet spot was slow moving shoots. So big ticket items,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sofas,
Hmm.
things where there's a lot of effort involved with going to location, moving furniture out, moving the product in, waiting for the right time of day. Fashion's a lot more fast moving than that, and the volume that we get through in a traditional studio day, there's not a lot of crossover for how AI
Yeah.
can work with that. So I saw that it solves a lot of problems for particularly for the furniture industry and home furnishings. So we lent into that pretty dramatically, even though it wasn't the core of our work. We also did a lot of still life in the kind of jewelry and alcohol areas, and there's a bit of crossover there. So we're starting to work with clients with AI and jewelry and alcohol.
Awesome.
Alcohol was almost immediate, but jewelry's been a slow burn.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the idea behind it. Essentially, is how do we transport this product into that location with minimal effort. There's obviously effort in studio, but minimal comparative to doing it traditionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more about the because I'm actually curious, like almost like the behind the scenes uh, kind of
The process.
information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how, for example, do you hear a lot of wows during meetings with clients just to showcase the potential of the technology?
Oh,
Are
absolutely.
clients actually aware of the almost endless potential of the tool or of the tools, or are they just looking for, yeah, AI is just a way to optimize cost and save time and everything? Are they aware of that
No.
as well? How is it? How is it the whole negotiation, talking to clients, in most importantly, managing expectations if they want to embrace AI?
It is endlessly tricky at this stage. Um, there, our quote for our traditional studio is a one-page document. Our quote for Matter is a 22-page document. We
That
it's
tells a
there.
lot. That tells a
It
lot.
does, man. It really does. We
Yeah.
have to really spell everything out, and even then, even after you've put as much as you can down on paper prior to the job beginning, I have to manage expectations throughout the entire job.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more difficult in that respect, and compared to shooting traditionally. There is a current misunderstanding of how easy things are. That people believe that AI is a push button solution, and it's
Yeah.
really not. In fact, there's parts of working this way that are harder than the traditional way. Certainly in terms of post production.
Yeah.
So it is really difficult, and I think because of people's understanding or lack of understanding about how things work with AI, they think that they can make endless kind of revisions uh, in post, which becomes really, really, really difficult. Oh, can we just change that out? Can we change that out? Can we? And some of those things are easily done, and some of them are really difficult. So
Yeah.
but fortunately I've got a retoucher on staff, and if something can't be done in AI, it can be done through Photoshop most of the time. But again, it's managing those expectations and the potential cost blowouts with the
Yeah,
mindset that you can ask for anything, you know.
yeah. Do you provide, for example, workshops and master classes to these clients as an educational way of trying to guide them through the process and managing expectations, or are you doing
So
that?
2025 is the year of me starting the workshops. So I never intended to, but we're quite a small team.
Yeah,
We can't scale the business quickly because we've got between us we've got 60 years of accumulated studio craft. You know, I can't just bring people into that process really quickly.
yeah, true.
So we're fairly boutique and we're limited in the amount of work that we can take on. So at the moment, the capacity is the interest is outstripping the capacity. So the idea was to run some workshops on top of that. So I've had a lot of agencies reaching out, advertising agencies reaching out over the last few months because the interest is really kind of snowballing this year. I'm sure you've seen that as well.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
indeed.
and I think a lot of people's mindset around AI is that it's a DIY tool, right? So they want to learn how to do it themselves.
Yeah,
For maybe just for concepting and artworking, not necessarily for the finished artwork itself, but they want to be able to storyboard and ideate.
yeah,
So yeah, I've put together some workshops this year to deal with agencies and creative departments and marketing departments to
yeah.
help them along a little bit.
Yeah, the reason I was asking you that is because I remember talking to an agency recently, and they were so fed up with it almost endless cycle of revisions that at some
Mm,
point, and they're already working actively with AI for a lot of different clients, and at some point they were like, "We're fed up. We're fed up.
uh-huh,
Let's just educate people first of all."
mm,
Offer this alongside, of course, but let's just educate people first on the limitations, mostly on the limitations, not just the possibilities, but especially the limitations. And this changed completely. So that's why I was asking if you
okay.
were doing that as well, just to make sure that expectations would be more balanced and just to make sure that you still deliver high quality work, but within the AI
Sure.
boundaries,
Just
let's
with
say.
less of the speed bumps. Yes,
Yeah.
it comes down to me essentially managing the process a lot of the time with clients once the job's actually started. But
Yeah.
hopefully through the workshops, I can spread that information around a little bit easier.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So we're almost finishing. Before we end the conversation, it was really it flew the time. By the way, it
But
was
it's
really
I
was
feel
really
like we're
was
just
really
getting
great.
started.
Yeah. So just to finish off, what kind of exciting stuff would you like to see this year in terms of functionalities, even new tools, for example? What kind of needs do you have that you would like to get fixed this year?
I mean, I don't know if I'm as excited about testing as I am about final output. You know, I've never been a student like this before. It's so fun to learn, to dabble, to try new things, to see what people are putting out. It's super time consuming. Don't get me wrong. It's hard
Oh
to
yeah,
stay
it
on
is.
top of the endless
Yeah, it
amount
is.
of new tools that are out there. And it's very hard to then balance that with your existing workflow, with your existing workload. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um, but I'll leave that up to the developers. I just want to see new tools and I want to try them out. I'm excited about Gemini 2.0 Flash. I can see a huge amount of potential for that, and certainly the way we can incorporate it into our kind of existing work. I mean, just the other day, we shot with a kind of high-end furniture client, outdoor furniture. And typically I would generate backgrounds. We had generated backgrounds for them in Midjourney of a particular style. And usually I would generate a similar piece of furniture to their furniture in the scene. And we go, look, it's not exact, but you get the idea. And they would have to
Yeah.
just go with that, you know. They would
Yeah.
have to envisage their sun lounger in the place of that sun lounger. And then we would then use that sun lounger as a point of reference for lighting and so forth. And then we would
Yeah.
shoot and incorporate. But with Google Gemini Flash, we could very easily take that background, very quickly train Gemini on the product, and then incorporate the two together and present that to the client and say, look, it's
Yeah.
basically finished art. Like it's very close to being what the final output is. The product's a little bit off, but you get the idea. So then when we shoot the product in studio and incorporate it into the scene, it's almost I mean that's 100% finished. Through Gemini it was 95% finished almost. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see them release a version of that where the resolution isn't so poor. Because at the moment
Hmm.
it's not intended for commercial purposes,
Yeah.
and the outputs that's terrible. But in terms of resolution, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what happens next with that because I can see that really becoming a useful tool for us in terms of presenting ideas to clients.
I would say that Google almost silently is just putting their feet in this game, like
Oh
really in
yeah.
a really subtle way. And I've done some tests last week with Gemini, and some features can really replace Photoshop
Oh yeah.
in a
The
really easy way. In a
editing
really easy way.
functionality is really impressive. I mean,
Impressive.
underestimate Google at your own peril, right? It's a very big business with a lot of talent, you know. So I think their suite of products is becoming really impressive.
Yeah.
Uh, it's
Also
quite
the
funny
video
that
model.
people,
Also the video model.
yeah,
VO2 is
yes,
absolutely mind blowing. Mind blowing.
yeah, it's quite funny that people don't gravitate towards their suite of products, though, isn't it? It's
True.
almost like
Indeed.
people
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
preconception that they won't be as good or creative or something, but they're actually very impressive.
Yeah. Hmm. And yeah, it's interesting because, for example, when they launched Gemini, at least the first model, which you have like almost like a ChatGPT experience,
Mm-hmm.
it was not so impressive.
Mm.
They did improve a lot of stuff, and at some point it was great. But then people totally forgot about that. Nowadays,
Mm.
in terms of models, text to text, it's basically Claude and ChatGPT competing against each other,
Yeah.
and Gemini almost like working in the background, trying to improve the model, and then all of a sudden, for creative stuff, Google impresses
Mm.
everyone.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I agree.
it's really I'm really curious about how this is going to develop, both for image and also video.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, obviously we all want an extra layers of control over creation and the tools that incorporate that. I think you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago about the few tools where you know they're adding in
Hmm.
layers of control.
Yeah,
Uh, and that's what creatives who have spent their lives crafting things traditionally. That's what they want, really. They don't
yeah,
want to hand over full creative control to Midjourney. They want to be able to
yeah,
angle things how they want, adjust
yeah,
lighting and
definitely.
adjust themes, and without image degradation. And that we're also that currently there's a lot of limitation with a lot of the tools. Is the more changes you make, is the output becomes poorer and poorer.
Yeah,
So I'd like to see that improve this year as well.
yeah, amazing. Heath, thank you so much. It was really
No
great
worries.
talking to
Good.
you. It was really a
Great talking
pleasure.
to you too.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure to get your angle through a photography perspective. Hopefully, photographers will. I mean, I think it's just going to be a matter of time
It
until
is.
they
It
embrace
is.
this technology fully, partially if it's hybrid production, but in any step of the process, I think this is going to be present. That's for sure. And I don't think I'm being optimistic at all.
No, 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 no. I mean, you just went early, you know. we went early, and
Yeah.
adoption is coming slower than I expected, but it's happening. You know,
Yeah, it's happening.
there is an inevitability to all of this as well. You know, things change in every industry. You know, look at CAD and architecture. There's the same
Oh yeah.
level of resistance for that, right? I mean, it's Photoshop and photography. There's
Even
the same
Photoshop.
level of
I was about to
resistance.
say that. I was about
Yeah,
to say that. Even Photoshop.
synthesizers in music production. It's happened across tons and tons of different industries, and there's a huge element of resistance to it every time. And people feel like it's taking away traditional crafts, or it's going to replace traditional craft. But I think over time we realize that it's never going to replace. It's always just
Yeah.
going to work into the workflow somehow. And the people who are able to use those tools along with their traditional craft and ideally merge the two together are the
Yeah.
people who succeed.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. Once again, thank you so much, Heath. That's all for now, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter, nimblelab.substack.com. Until next time, have a good one.
Thanks, Fabio.